Right, today, special day today. We're in the depths of winter there now, but I'm going to give you some of the best tips and best hacks for potatoes for getting a mega crop this year. And you've got to kind of start now thinking about it and preparing about it and putting these little techniques and these tips into place so the results will be fantastic for you. So stick around, watch the show, and then just pick up some ideas and some methods as well. And right at the end, my main little kind of secret special one for growing this abundance of potatoes in 2021. So my name is Tony Smith and welcome to my channel. This is my allotment and we're in the kind of the depths of winter here. We're on the northeast coast, about a quarter of a mile over that wall is the sea, but it's still bringing in some harsh cold nights. But this is the time now to start kind of thinking about potatoes, just planning, getting a few things into place. So like I mentioned before, I want to give you some like tips and advice and things I've picked up by watching, you know, greater gardeners than myself, you know, their little tips, their little techniques, and hopefully get you a nice big crop of potatoes this year. So if you like this channel, do think about subscribing, hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up, and I'll just let everyone know how to grow potatoes and let you know, it doesn't cost you anything, and let you know when I've got some new videos. So let's go to the first little tip. So this garden is a no-dig raised bed garden, and if you can see with the snow there, you can see all the raised beds and all the snows. And in the olden days, before this was like a raised bed, where those beds are actually now, we just had long normal beds, nothing raised, just normal beds on the ground, and that's where we used to grow the potatoes. And every year we would kind of do the digging out, plant them, and it was a long hard process just to get the potato, and then even kind of to dig up your crop as well. It's a, you know, it's a mighty task it's probably one of the main ones of gardening. So that's where we did it there now, but new methods are taking over. So the first tip for any newcomers out there with potatoes is tubs. And this for me has been like a little revelation. It has totally changed the whole dynamics of the potato crop and the planting of the crop and the harvesting. You can do it systematically, one bucket at a time, into a, you know, when you're harvesting, into a wheelbarrow, get them out. It's none of this back breaking. Them days have gone. And a bucket and a 30 litre, 50 litre bucket. This one's a 30 litre bucket. I found these ones probably the best. You can get bigger ones, and I've got a couple of bigger ones there. And for everything in this video today, there's a special links down below where all what I've been talking about today is there, so you can have a look and peruse yourself, and they are affiliated, helps the channel out. But the first one is get yourself some tubs. They are fantastic. So my second little bit of advice is a modification to the tubs, and a big thank you to Steve Greenside up, who gave me this heads up, is put some holes, bigger holes in the actual tubs. So last year and don't get us wrong, I got a great crop, but I want to go for this mega crop this year. So you get the little drain plugs in now, the drain holes, but put some more in. And basically I'll show you how I got those. And I just use a little drill. Now this is a 40mm flat blades, and just gently, if you press too hard, then it might crack the plastic. So, and I just go for about 4 holes, and I use the actual holes that are in this tub already. So there we go, all done there now, ready for the next little stage. And what it means is the roots, not the potatoes, the roots will grow out, grab all the moisture. That's what your potatoes want, just love moisture. Grab all the moisture and bring it into the potatoes to kind of get them right through the season without drying out. That's probably the next tip, is don't let them dry out. That's the best probably bit of advice you can get for any, don't let your potatoes dry out, whether they're in tubs or in the ground. Keep giving them water. So the next lot of tips is chitin. And there's often the kind of times, do we chit, do we not chit? Now I've always done it, and my mum's always done it, so I'm going through that kind of process where if it was good enough for the kind of the older generation, and it's good enough for me as well, so I do chit. But what the kind of the thing is, don't worry about it if you don't want it, you know what I mean? It's just something that basically you're just kind of helping that potato along, that tuber along, just to give it like a little bit of a root before we start off. So for this year's crop, my main crop is, I'm going for three varieties, but three: an early, a second early, and a main crop. And my first early is Pentland Javelin, and I've got a little, and they're just really to get a little potato as quick as possible on the plate, to get that, that kind of summer flavours where the butter's running around the potatoes and everything like that, just purely for that reason. Basically, my main early or second early is a Charlotte. It's a lovely potato, and we've grew it many times here and many times had success, but this year I want that bumper crop, and these are the kind of the methods I'm doing. Then my main crop is a newcomer to me, or not to everybody, but a Yukon Gold. Now this is my main crop, and these are the ones that are kind of, I'm hoping are going to give us the crop that'll get us right through the winter. The earlies there are just for the summer to kind of put on the plate and eat and forget about, but these are the ones that I want to last through the year until next year. So these are the varieties that I'll be doing, and I'll be chitting all of them, and it basically just put them in the daylight in a nice, not too warm, and certainly not kind of below freezing, and just let them get a little bit of light, and then the tubers will come, and you'll see them like a little dark green stub, and then you're kind of ready for when the season begins to plant. So this is, like a polytunnel, an unheated polytunnel, but I'm starting off me chitin there now, so the temperatures do drop down quite a little bit through the night, but I want to start just chitting them away there now. So just to kind of help things, and I've got first lot in there, I'm just putting them on a little bed of polystyrene, just to kind of keep a little bit of heat in there and just protect from cold drafts or anything like that. Then I'm just going to put a little bit of fleece on the top as well, just to kind of, just for these harsh cold nights, just to protect them a little bit. And the fleece obviously is just a thin fleece, it'll let the light in, but hopefully just stop them severe frosts just coming down. If you another little tip there, if you don't want to kind of go for fleece, by all means, just a little bit of bubble wrap, just just a little bit of protection, just to save them from the kind of, say, the harsh frosts that might come through the night. So we'll talk about first earlies, and you kind of want to be thinking about planting them between, say, the end of February and beginning of May, and then 10 weeks from that hopefully you'll get a nice crop. But I have to put my money where my mouth is for this video and show you what the processes I use. So I'm actually going to plant one batch up there now of me Pentland Javelin, and hopefully I'm going to try and sneak it through the season without getting frost, without getting anything like that. But I'm going to show you just really for this video what to do and how I go about it now. So first off, what you're going to plant it in. Now you might think this is like really important, but it's basically all you need is some sort of carrier, some sort of medium to grow the potatoes in. Potatoes, in a nutshell, probably grow in anything, but it's what you do, to be honest, which is the secret. So even like last year's potato media, what you grew, that's what I'm using. Last year's, say, spoils of the potatoes, I put it in, I'll just show you down there, covered in snow. It's underneath there. So all this bed here is my old potato bed, and I'll actually be putting them back into this bed as well. So this under here is this old spoils of the potatoes, and I've just piled it up there over the winter, and I'm going to start using it, like you say, the end of February. But for today, I need to get in there and get some in a pot. So you've got your little couple of inches really of medium in the bottom there, and you're going to put your potatoes in. Now this is where it kind of hinges, and this is what you need to do to kind of make sure everything's good and you're going to get a good crop. So before you put your potatoes in, and this is the reason why you can keep on using any old media, you've got to feed your media. Now let me show you what I'm using. So I'm using 3 different fertilizers, and it doesn't matter which company or basically which one, but there's 3 different types I'm using this time. I'm using the chicken manure pellets, which are kind of, as the name describes, just in a pellet. I'm going to be putting in some blood fish and bone, and again, this is just exactly what it is, you know what I mean, but it's just fantastic for the garden. Now the final one is a dedicated potato feed fertilizer, and all these ones can, in tubs or straight on the ground or digging in a trench if you're trenching your potatoes, they can all just go in either way, but the secret is to get them in there. Now this one you can't see it because the label there, but it's Vitax potato fertilizer. It's an organic one, but there's many different potato fertilizers, but you want like a dedicated one that's got all the kind of the special nutrients, the goodness to give your plants like the best shot in their growing season. So I do this in 2 stages with the feed, and like I say, you've got that's your kind of base setting, and we'll just put in first the blood fish and bone, and I just literally grab a handful and just sprinkle it on the top. Again, we'll put in the dedicated fertilizer as well for the potatoes, and then a little bit of the chicken pellets just in. So this is kind of stage 1, and this is where the actual potato is going to be sitting. So I give this little bit a good old mix and just get it right. So in go the 2 potatoes. Now I know these haven't been chitted, but for the video we'll just get them in. And again, 30 litre pot, 2 potatoes is enough, and it's probably about that far from the bottom. So next up we've got to put in some more medium, and there's worms and everything in that now. It's had its time to kind of relax, and it's fed itself, and the ground underneath fed itself, but you just need some more goodness in there. So I'll overfed them. I'm going to give a whole load more now for when the plant grows up through that soil. More feed. So blood fish and bone, a little bit of that, the dedicated potato fertilizer, and then a handful of the chicken pellets, and give that a good mix in. So there we go. So if you're using tubs, probably about 3 inches, if you just leave like a 3-inch layer so you've got some space, because this is, and we're going to do another practice, and I have to thank Tony over at Simplifying Garden for this, because I used this last year, this method, and it undoubtedly worked 100-fold. What a great tip. So there'll be a link to Steve at Green Side Up and to Tony for a big thank you for their tips in kind of making this video as well. So the next stage is, and this helped me so much, we want to put like a layer of straw over this to keep the moisture in. So let's take it around there now. So we've got our pot and it's basically set there, but we want to give one more, or there's 2 more little tips I can give you. And like I say, we're going to cover this with straw. Now this is animal horse bedding, and it's actually rapeseed straw, so it's not the seeds, it's just the straw. And I got 2 bags of this last year, so I had about 26 of these pots all told, so I used about 3/4 of a bag on that. And this method I'm going to reproduce now for tomatoes, for peppers. I'm just going to, it's so good for dampening down the weeds as well and keeping moisture locked in. That's what you want. So it's basically good handfuls and just put it over the top of your potatoes. And it's got the added benefit of insulation as well. So there was a few asked last year about this when I put this down, does it fly everywhere? And yes, on a windy day it'll go everywhere, but it's just basically garden, you know, the kind of the goodness from a garden. So let it go on your garden, it just breaks down and goes away. Once you put the water on, once you wet it and give your plants water, that's when this process happens, where it binds together and it just keeps, and the potatoes can come up, but it doesn't let the little weeds, the little seedlings come up, and it just keeps all that moisture locked in. So it's a perfect environment with the food, with the kind of added protection of the straw. The best environment you've got for your potatoes. So there's one more little tip for you. So we've got the potato ready, all the tubs, you've got all your tubs lined out ready to go in this dedicated area. And the last bit of tip is to bury the pots. So we've cut the holes out to let the roots go down, but what we want to do is, say about 4-5 inches, bury the pot in the ground as well, so it's getting the ground moisture coming up. It's got easy access to that as well, in case you do get dry spells and maybe you miss the watering. So this is really just when you're putting your potatoes in the garden, you know, there is no risk of frost or anything like that. I'm going to keep mine in the polytunnel for that time, or this particular one for the time being. But when you come to kind of get them in a nice few inches deep. And with a no dig garden, this is probably one of the only times where I get to use a spade or a shovel and get digging. So there we go, and that, I can say, is probably about 4 or 5 inches buried in. And again, it keeps the moisture in and it lets the roots go down deep into the earth. Depending on what variety, you've got to start thinking about end of February for planting your potatoes, getting them ready. This particular pot is going to go in the hut for a little bit of protection, but then I'll be starting to do it like end of February in anger to get them out and hopefully get a fantastic crop. If there's any tips that I haven't mentioned, or you've got a great tip, put it in the comments below, just so people will know, and that will be fantastic, because the more knowledge we have on trying to get, you know, successful crops, the better. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now, if you want, we have a private members Patreon page as well called the Pottymouth Gardeners Club. There's a link there as well to that, £2 a month for a whole more extra videos. So happy growing, and wishing you well on a huge mega potato crop that we're all going to get. Look after yourselves, take good care.